This episode's called Heads I Win, Tails You Lose. My boss walked into my office and he had a big smile on his face. Usually when he was smiling, it meant that he was okay, but he'd just cocked everybody else up. Today was no exception. He handed me an envelope with my new wage structure in it. I worked hard to get you that, he said, and he stood there rubbing his hands together. A quick glance at the new structure, and I soon realised that if I signed it, I'd be approximately £18,000 a year worse off. Either very little thought had gone into this, or someone had gone to a lot of trouble to make sure they sold more cars, but at the same time substantially reducing their wage bill. Previous experience with this firm told me it was the latter. It was an uncertain time in the motor trade, as this year the new registration number wouldn't be changing on August the 1st, and it would change twice a year from now on, in March, and then another new reg on September the 1st. This year we'd have 3 different registration plates: S, T and V. I think the reason given was something like to spread sales out over the year instead of having a mad rush in August. Try as I might, I couldn't think of a better way to cock the car sales up. I was worried that instead of spreading sales out, it would actually create more quiet periods. In my opinion, I thought that February, July, August and December would now be very difficult to sell new cars. And even January would be quieter than normal, as even though it was a new year, it was only 58 days to a plate change. Fearing the unknown and hoping for the best but planning for the worst, I'd taken the previous 10 years' accounts home and studied our best and worst months for new car sales. I then averaged them all out and then placed them in percentage order of how I thought the new registrations would affect us. I also thought that our used car sales would be affected, as the majority of our part exchanges would now be arriving later in the year. This was worrying, as my budget was always cut substantially for the last quarter, and this year it would probably mean that I would have a smaller window of opportunity to dispose of the swappers, and the ones I didn't sell, I would end up taking a loss to get rid of them. I was under strict orders to get my budget down or there would be trouble. I'd taken a lot of time and trouble to formulate my business plan, and I had expected to be included in discussions for our new budget of the unknown, and I also thought they would have at least had the decency to consult me before setting my new sales targets and my new wage structure. But as per usual, the people I work for had an "if you don't like it, you know where the door is" policy, and they'd ruled this was the structure. I knew that if I agreed to this, I would probably hit my first month's target, but then struggle the rest of the year. Possibly if I survived all the rollickings and nasty letters that head office used to love to send out, I'd perhaps recover in September. I thought that would be our busiest month, and I also knew that the manufacturer would bring out the facelifted models, the new model year specification changes. That would come in October, and this would have a positive effect on sales. "Just sign it," my boss said. "I have to fax it back to head office." "I'm sorry, but I can't." "I don't want to cause trouble, but it's the equivalent of signing my own death warrant," I replied. I then proceeded to explain why I thought that this plan would probably mean I would miss every monthly and quarterly bonus until September. Then I'd also miss October, November and December, and my end of year bonus. I explained how I'd come to this conclusion, and he knew I was right. He also now realised that if he signed his new pay structure, he'd suffer financially too. Clearly disgusted, he marched up the stairs, and I went to reception to watch the switchboard. As I expected, the light from his telephone extension came on, and I knew he'd be phoning head office. I took the back stairs 3 at a time, and I opened the door to the boardroom as quietly as I could. My drinking glass was still where I'd hidden it for just such occasions. My boss's office backed onto the boardroom and the walls were made of plasterboard. So with the glass pressed firmly between my ear and the wall, I could hear every word of his conversation. My boss was using me and my argument to make sure he would be all right, but he was using me as a scapegoat and I was being hung out to dry as usual. I could only hear one side of the conversation, but I heard enough to know that I was now on borrowed time in this job. Normally this wouldn't have bothered me, but I'd put together a great team. We were doing a fantastic job and we were having a good laugh doing it. I heard the receiver go down and my boss's door open. If he came this way, he would see me, so I hid in the brochure cupboard till he went past. Then I ran down the back stairs again to beat him to my office. He appeared at my door and said, "You have until the end of the month to sign it, otherwise you're out." "Well, thanks for fighting my corner. I know you did your best," I said sarcastically. The end of January came and I'd just hit my target. All the other sales managers in the group had capitulated and signed their contracts. I was in no position financially to leave, so reluctantly I signed mine too. February, I was right. It was a non-starter. Everyone was waiting for the new reg. My February bonus had gone out the window. But if I could make up the shortfall in March, I would still get it. And my quarterly bonus too, which was a lot of money. I'd pulled as many sales forward and I called in a few favours from my zone manager who helped us out with extra product. I scraped through and I hit my March target. I got my quarterly bonus and was paid my February bonus retrospectively. It was a close call, as once the quarter finishes, it's boxed off, and if you hadn't made up the shortfall, the monthly bonus had gone forever. Rather than being congratulated, I got the feeling I hadn't made a very good career move. We had a fantastic accounts department, and on the last day of every month, head office knew exactly to the penny how much we'd made by the close of business. I had my own system. I kept a meticulous record of all our deals, and although they fluctuated a little, I had a rough idea of my department's monthly overheads. I knew April was going to be a close one, but I thought I was just going to hit target until I got an unexpected visit from my boss. "Head office wants you to trade this car to another dealer in our group," he said. What was strange, that he even told me how much I had to sell it for. This figure bore no relation to Glass's guide. It was a lot less than the car was actually worth and would mean showing a loss on the sale. I complained that it was good stock and I didn't want to trade it. His answer was that we were doing better than other dealers in the group, so I should be thankful and stop complaining. I had good reason to complain, as when the accounts came through the next day, I'd missed my target by 0.2%, so no bonus for April. Last day of May, in walks my boss. "Head office wants you to trade 2 cars to one of the other dealers in the group at these prices." This time, I guessed what was coming, and lo and behold, I missed my May target by 0.5%. This was either a terrible coincidence or head office didn't like the fact that I was actually hitting the targets that they'd set. I knew the cheap cars were going to one of the other dealers who were nowhere near hitting their targets. So even with their sudden windfall of 2 very cheap cars, it wouldn't result in the sales manager getting his bonus. Drastic measures were now called for. If I couldn't make up the shortfall in June, I would kiss my April and May bonuses goodbye. Forever. I would have preferred to use my determination and skills to succeed in hitting my targets and earning my employer money, whilst being adequately rewarded with my share of the profits. As it was, I was going to have to use my skills to outwit my employers. I had this pen forever. Is that my death warrant there? Do me a favour, pass me my Mont Blanc, will you? My predicament reminded me of a joke I'd heard about the specification for Italian tanks, which were to be built with 6 reverse gears, and one forward gear just in case they were attacked from behind. I was now fighting a rear guard action myself whilst trying to move forward and keep up the sales momentum. June was going to be a very trying month, and if my plan worked, it would probably be my last one for this firm. I kept my eye on the costings, and as the end of the month drew near, I knew it was going to be another close one. I had thought of just hiding so my boss couldn't find me, but I knew that he wouldn't risk upsetting the MD by not putting any prospective trade sales through. He would instruct the accountant himself. I still wasn't certain that it was going to happen, so I just sat in my office and waited. Sure enough, he tripped down the stairs with my instructions to trade a car. He must have thought it was his lucky day. This time I didn't complain. I went upstairs to the accountant's office, and after I'd given him the details of the losses on the cars that I'd been instructed to trade, I watched him enter them into the computer. We had about 5 minutes to go before the end of the month shut down, so it was now or never. Should I fall on my sword with my head held high, or go down without a fight? I gave the accountant the 2 folders which contained deals for cars which I myself had sold. I also had a payment advice slip for a refund from the manufacturers for extra discounts we received for running demonstration vehicles and service loan cars. The accountant smiled. He didn't like me very much, and he knew what I was asking him to do. I'd held these back so that if there was anything underhanded going on, it would ruin their calculations, and these monies would more than offset any last-minute debits. The accountant didn't particularly like me, and he knew it would be me who was stood up when this shit hit the fan. He had a wry smile on his face as he input the data, and then hit the button to close off the month. I hit my target. I would get paid June and my quarterly bonus. April and May would be paid retrospectively, but I was also going to get the mother of all bollockings. I sat through it using a technique I'd learned from the Andy McNabb books. Pick a spot on the wall, fix your gaze, and concentrate on it. Andy used this to take his mind off the horrendous torture he was just about to endure. I was using it so that I wouldn't fall off my chair laughing. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.